My beloved child, something has finally come into the light that was never supposed to be discovered. Your soulmate has just learned that the ending of your love story may not have happened naturally at all. Someone they trusted may have quietly stepped between the two of you, changed what was said, hid what was meant to reach them, and allowed both of you to walk away believing a version of the story that was never completely true. And now, after all this time, your soulmate has discovered a detail that has forced them to question everything they thought they knew about why you disappeared from their life. Listen carefully, because the person behind this was not necessarily a stranger. This was someone close enough to know when your relationship was vulnerable, someone who understood what your soulmate feared, what you were struggling with, and exactly which words could create distance between two people who still cared deeply for each other. Your soulmate once believed that you simply stopped fighting for the connection. They believed your silence meant you had chosen another path. But now they are beginning to realize that your silence may have been interpreted through someone else's lies. The discovery began with something small, an old conversation that did not match the story your soulmate had been told. One person casually mentioned a message you supposedly sent during the final days of your relationship. Your soulmate immediately froze because they had never received that message. Then another detail surfaced. There had been an attempt from your side to explain something, but someone apparently made sure that explanation never reached the person it was meant for. Suddenly, memories your soulmate had buried for years started coming back with completely different meanings. And then came the question that changed everything: what if you never wanted this relationship to end? Your soulmate could not shake those words. They went back through old memories, conversations, dates, and moments that once seemed meaningless. The deeper they looked, the more inconsistencies they noticed. Someone had told them you were moving on. Someone had convinced them you no longer cared. Someone had encouraged them not to contact you because you supposedly wanted to be left alone. But now your soulmate is discovering that some of those statements may never have come from you at all. Don't skip this moment, because this is where the story becomes much deeper. Your soulmate finally confronted the person who seemed to know too much about what happened between you. At first, that person tried to dismiss everything as an old misunderstanding. They said there was no reason to reopen the past. But your soulmate refused to let it go. They asked one question after another until the excuses began falling apart. Then your name was mentioned. The room went silent. Your soulmate asked, "Did you ever actually hear them say they wanted me gone?" There was no immediate answer. That hesitation said more than any confession could have. For the first time, your soulmate understood that the ending they had accepted for years might have been written by somebody else. Someone may have taken two people who were hurt, confused, and emotionally vulnerable and pushed them farther apart at exactly the moment when one honest conversation could have changed everything. Your soulmate walked away from that confrontation shaken. Not because they suddenly knew every answer, but because they finally knew enough to question the biggest one: why would someone interfere with your love story in the first place? And that is when another person came forward. This person had remained silent for years because they believed revealing the truth would only create more pain. But after seeing your soulmate searching for answers, they could no longer keep what they knew hidden. They admitted that during the final days of your relationship, there was a private conversation about you, a conversation your soulmate was never supposed to hear about. According to them, someone was afraid that if you and your soulmate spoke directly, the separation would never happen. Think about that. The distance between you may have depended on keeping both of you from hearing each other's truth. Your soulmate's heart sank because they remembered how many nights they waited for you to reach out. What they never understood was that somewhere else, you may have been waiting for exactly the same thing. Two people waiting. Two people hurting. Two people believing the other had chosen silence. And someone in the middle knew it. But the biggest revelation has not happened yet. Because the person who finally spoke up told your soulmate that there was something else from that night, something connected directly to you. Something that could reveal what you truly intended before your love story suddenly ended. Your soulmate asked where it was. The answer left them speechless. It had apparently been kept hidden all these years. And now, for the first time, your soulmate is about to see it. Your soulmate stood completely still when they realized that whatever had been hidden all these years was not simply another rumor or somebody's memory of what happened. It was something real, something connected directly to the final days of your love story, and according to the person standing in front of them, it could prove that the ending your soulmate had accepted was never the ending you wanted. Their hands began to tremble as an old envelope was placed on the table. It looked ordinary, almost meaningless after so many years, but the moment your soulmate saw what was written across the front, their entire expression changed. Their name was there. And underneath it were words that appeared to have been written by you. For several seconds, your soulmate could not bring themselves to touch it. Every memory of those final days came rushing back, the unanswered questions, the sudden distance, the painful belief that you had simply decided they were no longer worth fighting for. They remembered being told not to contact you. They remembered someone insisting that you had already made your choice. They remembered hearing that you wanted a clean ending and that reaching out would only embarrass them. For years, those words had shaped the way your soulmate remembered you. But now an envelope that apparently never reached them was sitting inches away, threatening to destroy that entire version of the past. When your soulmate finally opened it, they did not rush. Their eyes moved slowly across every line as though they were afraid of what the next sentence might reveal. Then they stopped. Their breathing changed. Because whatever was written there did not sound like someone walking away without caring. It sounded like someone trying desperately to explain why everything had suddenly become so complicated. It suggested there were things you wanted your soulmate to understand before making any final decision. And most painfully, it made one thing clear: you had not simply erased them from your heart the way they had been led to believe. Your soulmate looked up and asked the question everyone in that room knew was coming. Why did I never get this? Nobody answered immediately. The silence became unbearable. Then the person who had kept quiet for years admitted that the message had been intercepted before it reached your soulmate. They claimed they had not personally taken it, but they knew who had. They also knew why. Someone close to the situation believed your relationship needed to end, and they were convinced that if your soulmate heard your side directly, they would come looking for you instead of moving forward with the life others had planned for them. That revelation hit your soulmate harder than the original breakup ever had. Because heartbreak is one thing when you believe two people simply could not make it work. But discovering that someone may have deliberately influenced the outcome creates an entirely different kind of pain. Your soulmate began remembering every person who had encouraged them to forget you, every person who had said you were not coming back, every person who had somehow seemed unusually certain about what you supposedly felt. Suddenly, one face kept appearing in their mind. It was someone they had trusted deeply. Someone whose advice they never questioned. Someone who had been present during the exact period when communication between you and your soulmate suddenly collapsed. Your soulmate confronted them that same day. There was no warning, no carefully prepared conversation. They simply placed the old envelope in front of this person and asked, "Have you ever seen this before?" The reaction was immediate. Their face changed before they could control it. They looked at the envelope, then at your soulmate, and for one brief second there was something in their eyes that your soulmate had never seen before: fear. They tried to deny everything. They said too much time had passed. They said memories become distorted. They even suggested that reopening the past would only destroy the peace your soulmate had finally built. But your soulmate was no longer interested in protecting a comfortable version of the story. They wanted the truth. "Did you keep this from me?" they asked. Again, silence. Your soulmate pushed the envelope closer. "Did you know they were trying to reach me?" This time, the person finally spoke. They admitted knowing about the message. But then they said something your soulmate was completely unprepared to hear: "You still don't understand why I stopped it." Your soulmate stared at them. The person explained that they believed they were protecting your soulmate. They claimed they had watched the relationship become complicated and feared that if you two reunited, your soulmate would make decisions the family strongly opposed. They convinced themselves that separating you was necessary. One hidden message became another. One altered explanation became another. Eventually, the truth became so buried that neither you nor your soulmate knew what the other person was actually thinking. But your soulmate was not satisfied. Protecting me from what? That question changed the entire conversation. The person hesitated before admitting there had been pressure coming from somewhere else. They had not acted completely alone. Someone else had wanted the relationship ended even more desperately, and that person had provided information about you that made everyone believe separating the two of you was the safest decision. Your soulmate immediately demanded to know who. The answer was not given easily. Instead, the person opened an old drawer and removed something your soulmate had never seen before: a folded piece of paper containing a name, a date, and details of a private meeting that apparently happened only days before your relationship fell apart. Your soulmate recognized the name instantly. That was the moment anger turned into shock. Because this was someone who had stood beside them after the breakup. Someone who comforted them while they cried. Someone who repeatedly told them that you had chosen to leave. And now your soulmate was being told that this same person may have been involved before the relationship ever ended. Don't skip what happened next, because your soulmate did something nobody expected. They did not call this person. They did not send a warning. They went directly to see them, carrying the envelope and the record of that old meeting. When the door opened, the person smiled as though nothing was wrong. Then they saw what your soulmate was holding. The smile disappeared. Your soulmate asked only one question: tell me what really happened between you and the person I loved. For a long moment, there was no answer. Then the person stepped aside and quietly said, "Come inside. There is something you were never supposed to find out." Your soulmate entered expecting another confession about the past. But what they were shown was far more serious. There was another message. Another piece of the story. And this one had apparently come from you after everyone believed your love story was already over. Your soulmate stared at it in disbelief. Because if the date on that message was real, then you had tried one final time to reach them. And someone had made absolutely certain they never knew. But the most painful part was the final sentence connected to that message, because it revealed exactly what you were prepared to do if your soulmate had answered. And when your soulmate finally read those words, they could no longer hold back the tears. Your soulmate read that final sentence again and again, almost as if their mind refused to accept what their eyes were seeing. According to the message, you had not been preparing to disappear forever. You had been preparing to meet them one final time, face to face, without family voices, without outside opinions, without anyone standing between the two of you. You wanted one honest conversation before allowing the relationship to end. And the words that shattered your soulmate most were simple: if there was still love left between you, you were willing to fight for it. For years, your soulmate had believed you walked away without looking back. Now they were holding something that suggested the exact opposite. Their eyes filled with tears as the reality settled in. "So they were waiting for me?" Your soulmate whispered. Nobody answered because there was nothing anyone could say that would make that realization less painful. Your soulmate remembered that exact period. They remembered sitting alone, checking their phone, hoping your name would appear while everyone around them kept insisting that you wanted nothing more to do with them. They had been encouraged to stop waiting, stop hoping, stop believing. Eventually they did. But now they understood that somewhere beyond all that interference, you may have been waiting too. Then anger replaced the tears. Your soulmate turned toward the person who had kept this message hidden and demanded the full truth. No more fragments. No more excuses. No more claims that everything had been done for their own good. They wanted to know exactly how many messages had been stopped, how many conversations had been manipulated, and how many people had participated in changing the ending of your love story. The person finally admitted that once the first message had been hidden, maintaining the lie became harder. Every time you tried to reach out, another explanation had to be created. Every time your soulmate questioned the breakup, someone had to convince them that contacting you would only reopen wounds. Then came the confession your soulmate never expected. The original plan had apparently not been to separate you forever. Someone believed a short period of distance would make your soulmate reconsider the relationship and follow the future their family wanted. But the plan went too far. Pride entered the situation. Fear took over. Too many people became involved. And once both of you were deeply hurt, nobody wanted to admit what they had done because revealing the truth would mean accepting responsibility for years of unnecessary pain. Your soulmate asked, "Did they ever know I was waiting?" The answer was devastating. No. That single word changed something inside your soulmate. For years they had quietly carried resentment toward you. Even during moments when they missed you, there had always been one painful thought underneath everything: if you truly loved me, why didn't you come back? Now that question had an entirely different answer. Maybe you had tried. Maybe your words had simply never reached the place they were supposed to reach. Your soulmate stood up and walked toward the window, trying to control the storm of emotions inside them. They thought about every birthday that passed, every lonely night, every mature decision they made while believing you had voluntarily disappeared from their future. They wondered how different everything might have been if that one meeting had happened. Would you have reconciled? Would you have forgiven each other? Would you have discovered that the real problem was never the love between you, but the voices surrounding it? Nobody could answer those questions now. But your soulmate suddenly realized there was one question that could still be answered. Where were you now? The moment they asked, the room became strangely quiet again. The person who had revealed the hidden messages looked away. Your soulmate immediately noticed. You know something. At first, they denied it. But your soulmate refused to accept another half-truth. After everything that had already been uncovered, they were finished allowing anyone else to decide what information they deserved to hear. Finally, the person admitted something extraordinary. Someone had heard from you. Not years ago. Recently. Your soulmate's entire body went still. How recently? The answer came quietly. More recently than you think. For the first time that day, shock completely replaced anger. Your soulmate demanded every detail. They learned that someone connected to the past had unexpectedly crossed paths with you and that your name had eventually entered the conversation. Apparently, you had asked a question about your soulmate, a simple question that revealed you had never completely forgotten what happened. You wanted to know whether they were happy. That was all. You had not demanded anything. You had not tried to interfere with their life. You simply wanted to know whether the person you once loved had found peace. When your soulmate heard that, they broke down. Because even after everything, your question had not been about revenge. It had not been about proving who was right. It had been about their happiness. Your soulmate covered their face and whispered, "All these years I thought they hated me. But the revelations were not finished. The person explained that when you asked about your soulmate, they almost told you the truth about the hidden messages. Almost. Fear stopped them again. They worried that reopening everything after so much time could create chaos. So once again, silence won. Your soulmate could barely believe what they were hearing. You had another chance to tell us? There was no defense left. Yes. That answer finally broke whatever trust remained. Your soulmate said something that left everyone silent. You didn't just change our ending once. Every time the truth tried to come back, you changed it again. Then your soulmate made a decision. They were done allowing other people to speak for you. They were done allowing other people to tell them what you felt. And most importantly, they were done allowing fear to determine whether the truth deserved another chance. Your soulmate asked for everything, every old message, every name, every date, every piece of information connected to you. They wanted to rebuild the timeline from the beginning and understand exactly where reality ended and manipulation began. Hours passed. Piece by piece, the old story collapsed. And underneath it, another story began appearing. A story in which two people had made mistakes, yes. Two people had been hurt, yes. But also a story in which outsiders had amplified those wounds until reconciliation became almost impossible. Then your soulmate found something hidden among the old records. A location. A date. And beside it, a short handwritten note. They recognized the handwriting of the person who had first interfered. The note referred to one final meeting involving you, the meeting your soulmate had never known existed. But there was something unusual about the date. It happened after your last known attempt to contact them. Your soulmate looked up immediately. What happened at this meeting? Nobody wanted to answer. Your soulmate asked again. This time louder. Finally, someone admitted that you had been given information during that meeting that convinced you there was no reason to keep waiting. Your soulmate felt their stomach drop. What information? The person took a long breath. Then came the sentence that changed everything again. You were told that your soulmate had personally asked everyone to make sure you never contacted them again. Your soulmate stepped backward in disbelief. I never said that. I know. Those 3 words filled the room with unbearable silence. Your soulmate finally understood why your final attempts had stopped. You had not simply given up. You had apparently been made to believe that continuing to reach out would violate the wishes of the person you loved. And suddenly, the ending made sense. Your soulmate had been waiting for you. You had been told to stay away. Both of you believed you were respecting the other's decision. And somebody else had written that decision for both of you. But there was still one mystery left. Who had ordered that final lie to be delivered to you? The person slowly reached for another document. Your soulmate looked down at the name written there. Their face lost all color. Because the person responsible was someone they had defended for years. someone still close to their life today. And your soulmate realized that the hardest confrontation had not happened yet. This time, however, they were not going alone. They picked up their phone, looked at the information that could finally lead them toward you, and whispered, "Before I confront them, there is one person I need to hear the truth from directly." And the person they meant was you.